$200 million, $80 million, $150 million. These aren't just random numbers on a balance sheet. They are the opening salvos of a financial war. The year is 2026, and the global film industry is staring at a figure that, by all traditional logic, simply shouldn't exist. Marvel Studios has officially abandoned the era of sensible budgeting and entered what forensic accountants are calling its hyper-budget phase. The figures involved in this production are enough to make a seasoned Wall Street analyst blink and then check their math. But the math just got more complicated. As of January 2026, Disney officially pushed the release date from May to December 18, 2026, while reports cite the gargantuan vision required to finish the film. In financial terms, a 7-month delay is a massive cost multiplier, extending the carrying cost of this debt significantly. To get Joe and Anthony Russo back into the director's chairs, Disney cut a check for $80 million. But for the return of the prodigal son, Robert Downey Jr., the price tag doesn't just break the bank, it demolishes the vault. We're looking at a guaranteed upfront outlay of nearly $200 million just to secure the leadership for this production. This isn't a movie production anymore. It's a high-stakes financial rescue operation. Welcome to the forensic breakdown of Avengers Doomsday, a film on a collision course with history to become the most expensive motion picture ever produced. But this isn't just about the price tag. It is a stress test for the entire hyper-budget tentpole model in a post-strike, post-pandemic landscape. Is Avengers Doomsday too expensive to fail? Before we dive into the mountain of cash Disney is currently lighting on fire, hit that like button. If we get enough likes, maybe Disney will let us film our next video in one of RDJ's spare perk trailers. I hear they have better plumbing than most luxury hotels. To understand why Doomsday is such a financial anomaly, we first have to look at the reigning heavyweight champions of debt. For years, the internet was flooded with rumors that Avengers Endgame, or James Cameron's Avatar sequels, held the record for the highest price tag. But we need to separate the marketing hype from the forensic reality. The audited truth, buried deep within UK financial filings, tells a much more expensive story. The current undisputed king of the most expensive list is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, released in 2015. While the studio might have claimed lower numbers in press releases, the tax documents reveal a staggering $533.2 million in gross spending. Even after they claimed their tax rebates, the net price tag sat at $447 million. Why was it so expensive? It wasn't just the special effects. It was a production nightmare. Harrison Ford broke his leg on set, shutting down filming for weeks. They threw out the script halfway through. That $447 million is the number Doomsday has to beat. Hot on its heels is Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. You might not think of this dino sequel as a budget buster, but it had a gross spend of roughly $516 million. Its high cost was driven by a unique combination of extensive animatronics and a lengthy post-production schedule. And what about Avengers Endgame, the cultural phenomenon that defined a decade, actually sat comfortably in the $356 million to $400 million range. This figure is often misunderstood because it was shot back-to-back with Infinity War, creating a combined production cost estimated between $700 and $800 million. There is also a huge misconception about Avatar: The Way of Water. People assume because it took 13 years to make, it cost $1 billion. But the allocated budget for Avatar 2 specifically was likely in the $350 to $400 million range. Why? Because James Cameron spends money on R&D and time, not on massive upfront actor salaries. Now, look at the projections for Doomsday. We are looking at a gross expenditure likely to breach $550 million. Even after the tax incentives kick in, the net cost is expected to settle between $480 and $500 million. Marvel isn't just trying to beat the record, they are trying to sail past it so fast that no other studio will even attempt to give chase. Having established that Doomsday is chasing the record held by The Force Awakens, the obvious question becomes, how much of that massive budget is being funneled directly into the pockets of the franchise's returning godfathers? Let's talk about where that money is actually going. In a standard Hollywood blockbuster, your above-the-line talent, the directors, writers, and stars, usually consumes about 20% to 30% of the total budget. For Avengers Doomsday, that sector is projected to consume nearly 50% of the entire greenlight figure. So this is a massive deviation from standard film accounting. The return of Robert Downey Jr. is the single largest talent expenditure in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's talking about a base salary for his two-film commitment, estimated between $100 million and $150 million. But here is the kicker. Unlike his previous deals, which relied heavily on back-end profit participation, this new contract is heavily weighted toward guaranteed upfront cash. In the past, Downey earned $500 to $600 million from the MCU, but that was because the movies made billions. This time, Downey isn't gambling on the movie's success. He's getting paid before the first ticket is even sold. This is known as the $200 million handshake. Why would Disney agree to this? It's a risk premium. They are paying a premium to eliminate the variable of star power risk. They know Downey guarantees a massive opening weekend. They are buying insurance. Then there are the perks. The overhead for RDJ's lifestyle during production could fund an entire independent film. Private jets on standby 24/7. And the trailer encampment, a custom setup that adds an estimated $2 to $5 million to the line items. And we can't forget the Russos. Their $80 million aggregate payday is double the industry standard. But the devil is in the details. They've secured a deal for their production company, AGBO, to co-produce the films. This means Disney is paying an external vendor a production services fee to manage its own franchise,
an administrative layer that adds millions in producer fees that didn't exist during the filming of Infinity War.
The spending doesn't stop with Doctor Doom and the directors. Avengers Doomsday is an ensemble piece on a scale we haven't seen since 2019. And that brings us to what analysts call the Payroll Cascade. First you have the New Guard, the Fantastic Four. Pedro Pascal alone, coming off the massive success of The Last of Us, now commands a salary in the $10 to $15 million range. Then you have the returning heavyweights, Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Florence Pugh. Their market values have all skyrocketed. And finally, there is the cameo economy, which just got hit with a mutant premium. Bringing back the original Brotherhood and X-Men isn't just a nostalgia play, it's a massive line item. Combine that with the confirmation of Chris Evans returning, and you have a legacy payroll that likely rivals the GDP of a small island nation. Industry analysts project the aggregate cost of this cast alone could breach $250 million. The cast of Doomsday costs as much as an entire Captain America movie. With the astronomical talent costs tallied, we must now shift our focus to the physical reality of the production, where a change in venue is burning cash faster than ever before. While talent gets the headlines, the physical production in the United Kingdom is where the rest of the fortune is being spent. Marvel has moved away from the cost-effective stages of Atlanta to the high-premium environments of London and Windsor. Why London? Reports indicate that Marvel paid multi-millions to the Crown Estate just for permission to film on the grounds of Windsor Great Park. They are building massive physical sets, including a 1960s-style house. But the most alarming metric is the pre-production burn rate. Disney has reportedly spent $8 million on Doomsday during its early pre-production phase alone. When compared to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Doomsday is burning cash at a rate 3.2 times higher. With the release date now pushed to December 2026, this burn rate becomes even more dangerous. Stages must be rented longer. Storage for massive physical sets must be paid for an additional 7 months. This burn rate strongly suggests a final gross budget well in excess of $500 million. We also have to talk about the invisible tax of making a movie in 2026. The industry has undergone a structural shift in costs due to labor organization. The days of the 16-hour culture are over. To shoot the same amount of footage now requires more days and therefore more money. Then there is the visual effects squeeze. VFX workers are unionizing, and vendor pricing is rising. Doomsday is inherently VFX heavy. Rumors indicate a multiverse war featuring a collision between Earth 616 and the Fox X-Men universe. A film of this scale typically requires over 3,000 VFX shots. At an inflated rate, the VFX budget alone could exceed $150 million. Disney's strategy relies heavily on a specific British tax loophole to mitigate the financial damage. So if it's so expensive, why film in the UK? The answer lies in the audio-visual expenditure credit. This system creates a paradox. The studio is actually incentivized to spend more in the UK to maximize the rebate. If Doomsday spends a gross of $600 million, the studio could receive a rebate of roughly $115 million. This allows the film to set a world record for gross budget while keeping the net budget somewhat palatable. Now we get to the most terrifying question for any Disney executive. Can this movie actually make money? At a $450 million net budget, Doomsday needs $1.125 billion just to break even. At the rumored $550 million gross budget, that number jumps to $1.375 billion. Avengers Doomsday has to perform at that massive hit level just to reach the point where it stops losing money. So why do it? Because of the loss leader strategy, merchandising, theme parks, stock valuation. The success of Doomsday is essential for the expansion of Avengers Campus at Disneyland. The ROI isn't just ticket sales. It's calculated in stock price stability. Why would any company take this risk? Because for the Walt Disney Company, Avengers Doomsday is a too-big-to-fail asset. The $500 million budget for Doomsday is essentially a stabilization premium, a massive corporate capital expenditure project designed to refurbish the most valuable piece of intellectual property in Hollywood. Is it the most expensive movie ever made? In nominal dollars, the answer is almost certainly yes. Disney isn't just making a movie, they are buying an insurance policy on their entire brand ecosystem. Thanks for watching this financial autopsy. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. By the way, we're sure you'll love our video on Netflix. You can access that video from the card above. What do you think? Is any movie worth $500 million? Let us know in the comments below.